So in talking a little bit, I think it's important to identify where Jim and I started with this whole trek down the 3D path. His criteria was it really had to fit the mold of 2D filmmaking techniques. There was nothing that we could leave on the table or compromise in that effort, or we weren't going to move forward. So the business model for him certainly had to start with servicing, the filmmaker, but also servicing the whole platform for filmmaking as we knew it. And so that included, handheld, Steadicam, challenges that in the 3D market, our competition was around 400 pounds on a good day. So we had a lot of room to come up with something that was 3D filmmaking centric, but it really had to ramp all the way down to something that was small enough to be put on the shoulder and make happen. And I think it was important to identify that in order for us to accomplish that, there were companies at this very show who continue to demonstrate their products like Sony, Fujinon, Evertz, that really stood up to the table and said, yeah, we could build a solution to record 24p in a remote recorder that didn't exist, or a lens that could go side by side that mimic the human interocular distance. And so that was the criteria for us out of the gate. It wasn't, boy, 3D is so compelling that it was kind of like, damn the business model. It wasn't in that venue. It was very much, no, if we're going to do this, we can't compromise the 2D effort. We had to deliver something in 2D just as compelling in 3D.
Yeah, I think it's really important, I think, in how it applies, and we're going to return to this theme, but how it applies to the broadcast business is that for you guys, it's about getting content out there all the time. It's a steady stream. And so people can't completely reinvent how they do things. What our goal has been and will continue to be going forward on an expanded basis is to empower people to do their business as usual, to let operators, 2D operators, be able to operate the way they've operated, let the production models be the way they have been, and empower that. And I think to put a little meat on the bones of what you were saying, when we started down the path of thinking about making feature films in 3D, I approached that as a director saying, well, I don't want to change how I make movies. I think the language of cinema is what it is. Different people have different styles and so on. But I don't want to be denied my normal tool set of hand-holding, Steadicam, Technocrane, all of those tools, and the ability to move the camera fluidly. So we had to satisfy ourselves before we committed to doing a major, multi-$100-million feature in 3D, that it would not be a compromised film, that the 2D viewing of that film would be just as good as if that film had just been a 2D production. I won't say just as good as the 3D, because we have to believe that the 3D adds value, and I think we've seen that it does. But it would be just as good as the 2D if the film had been just made as a 2D title, with no compromise, no silly editing, no hanging on a shot indefinitely just because it's a cool 3D moment, and no loss of dynamic quality to the movie because the cameras are big and heavy. So we went toward a set of systems, camera systems, that was very lightweight, stripped down, streamlined, and we went to people like Sony and so on and said, how can you help us facilitate this idea for our camera system? And we proposed that they separate the image sensor from the camera electronics, which they did at that time. And we were able to create a camera. Most people don't know this, but when we were shooting with the reality camera system on our documentary films in 2001, 2002, and 2003, that was about a 25 to 30-pound system, depending on how we had it configured. And most of those films, even though they were blown up to IMAX, were handheld. They were operated on the shoulder, as well as the other conventional tools. So people have recently said, oh, we did the first handheld in 3D. Like, well, yeah, except for the stuff that was done almost a decade earlier. And I personally operated the camera on Avatar for everything except the Steadicam shots. And I can tell you, the camera weighed 27 pounds, and it was very easy to manage, even to run with. Certainly walking, kneeling, all of that sort of thing was all fine. So we had focused on creating an uncompromised 2D derivative product. And I think where this is leading with with respect to your business is that it's our firm belief, and if you don't take away anything else from this today, hopefully you'll take away this, that there are a lot of sort of myths about barriers to entry into the world of 3D and how much it costs and how you need a whole separate crew and the whole methodology is different and all the technology is different and you're having to start over from scratch in territory you don't understand. We believe it's exactly the opposite, that to grow this market rapidly and correctly with high quality 3D, let people do what they do. Let those operators that are operating from a given camera position at an NFL game or an NBA game, that they know how the play is going to go and how the ball is going to move, and they've done it that way for 10 or 15 years. Let them operate the camera and let the using of these tools be transparent. Let the same producers and production companies that are doing episodic television just do it the way they do it, and let a company like Cameron Pace Group, which is an end-to-end facilitator, production services facilitator and technology provider, work in concert with that to create the solutions necessary. And I think that I want to make one other point on that subject. Right now, there are a bunch of people who are out there saying we're stereographers, we know how to do 3D. They're definitely working for us and helping move the market forward and spreading their experience. But there's one thing that I would caution them about and caution people who are dealing with them about, which is if you over-define your niche as an expertise in stereo, you tend to make all of 3D a problem for people. And psychologically, it goes like this. You can't do your job unless you talk to me, which is people basically kind of defining that position of significance for themselves. So, and for no other reason economically, they can drive their price up. When really what the 3D experts should be saying is, you know what? You know what you're doing. You've been doing this for a long time. It's my job to come in and facilitate and help you do your work the way you've done it. If you want to use a wide lens, we'll make that work. If you want to use a long lens, if you want the camera to be here, if you want it to be moving, if this is your shooting schedule, we'll be there to meet those needs. And that's, I think, what stereographers should be saying.